We're with you, lads.
20, 25, or 30 years, we can't be sure exactly how long motorists in Denver hadn't come across strikers.
They work hard every day. We spend a lot of money at that store. They should have a decent income to live on.
That's right.
They were hit by COVID, they got ill, some of them died, and this store must pay its debt.
The CEO earned $22 million last year and we got nothing. So it's time to share.
Is this a revolution?
Yes, I like your way of looking at things.
After 2 weeks, the 8,000 strikers eventually managed to secure better health coverage, a $2 increase on an average of $15 an hour. The local dispute at King's Supermarket is one of those strikes that have been erupting across the country for months and which James Walsh is studying, a political science professor, a specialist in social movements.
I teach the history of the labor movement, and for me, this is an opportunity to observe a social movement. It's something that's part of the history of the labor movement, a fight for a decent life and for respect. Of course, it's linked to the pandemic, but it's also a new awareness, because we have the largest wealth disparity in United States history.
In our history.
On one side, we have the 1% ultra-rich, and on the other, all those fighting to afford a decent life and pay their bills. And this wealth gap is a bubble that is, at last, bursting.
Bubble that finally burst.
From Denver, the capital of the state of Colorado, you only have to head west, travel 200 miles into the Rockies to discover one of the places in the United States where these inequalities are most striking. Welcome to the legendary resort of Aspen, the Billionaires Resort. For over 75 years, Aspen has been a paradise for skiers, with lift ticket prices of lift passes costing $200 a day.
I'm the Assistant Director of Communications for Aspen Skiing Company. We're here on the magnificent summit of Aspen Mountain in Colorado. We are owned by the Crown family of Chicago. They're keen skiers, ardent defenders of the environment and generous philanthropists. We're very lucky to have them as owners because they love to ski. Our staff is incredible, the quality of service exceptional, the food excellent, so it all makes us a place a little bit apart in North America.
In many resorts around the world, seasonal staff working on the lifts are young mountain enthusiasts from all over the country. Originally from Florida, David, 25, opens the chairlift at 9:30 a.m.
My name is David Richardson. I've worked here for 3 winter seasons. It's a good way to save money. I earn about $2,400 a month, but since my rent is $500, I have $1,900 left to get me to the end of the month.
Once a mining town, silver was mined there. In the 1960s, Aspen was still a lovely little resort inhabited by idealists who had chosen to live here, far from everything in this exceptional environment. But today, the place has simply become inaccessible. On the south side of the valley, Wayne Mountain is the neighborhood that, by itself, brings together the greatest fortunes in the United States. A volunteer at the town museum, Jane Click, born in 1933, is today the living memory of Aspen.
It's changed so much since I've lived here. But you can never take away the beauty of this place. It's the most beautiful place to live. It has also become a paradise for billionaires.
The obscene property prices are testament to that.
In this neighborhood, the average is about $20 million. I don't think you can find any for less than $10 million. On Red Mountain, it's more like $35 million. The cheapest, $25 million. Last summer, a house sold for $72 million. And last week, I was told that a house sold for $48 million.
a third, fourth or fifth residence for some. At that price, finding housing in Aspen is a challenge, and all those who work for the rich, on the slopes, in the houses, the hotels, the restaurants, they cannot afford to live there.
Aspen is a microcosm of what's happening everywhere. Those who come here to work can't afford a place to live. That's the problem. What will happen when there is no one left to look after our huge houses?
The worker shortage has become a problem. Added to the housing issue today is this recent phenomenon called the Great Resignation. For about 6 months after the first waves of the COVID pandemic, 4 million workers have been quitting each month in the United States. Some do it to live better, differently, without the stress of American-style success. Others, more modest, have simply had enough of exhausting themselves for meager wages. They know the labor market is tight and that they are in a position to demand more and better. From their Pitkin County office, on which Aspen depends, Patty Clipper and John Peacock observe the phenomenon with some concern. Where have the workers gone?
They've found other ways of life. They save money by no longer having to make all those commutes to go to work. They have more time for themselves, for family, much more than before. But the huge problem is income inequality. And we don't know what to do. You can't force employers to pay their employees more. And when you have 20 vacancies to fill, there are only 10 candidates. It's a threat to our economy here, but also elsewhere.
And the rich realize that they need the poor to live the way they do.
Je crois que s'ouvre une période.
I believe a period is opening in which we will have to really think about how to distribute wealth, how to ensure people have a decent income to live on, particularly here. Because in this Aspen community, we need everyone who works to sustain this way of life, which is one of the pillars of our community.
Tous ceux qui travaillent pour maintenir ce mode de vie, qui est un des piliers de notre communauté.
Looking at what's happening in other parts of Colorado now, with these workers and supermarket employees who are on strike, I find myself thinking that the pot is boiling. The question is whether it will boil over or simply vent off as a jet of steam under pressure, like a bubble that's swelling. Either way, people are becoming increasingly tired, overwhelmed and frustrated.
The county is defending itself by pointing to a range of measures to provide affordable housing. For example, it has recently purchased this caravan park to prevent any development and to keep in place those who live and work at the resort. Elected officials are therefore well aware of the problems they denounce, but they also know that their ultra-rich electorate would not accept social housing being built in the heart of Aspen. It's 4 p.m. Oscar, a snowboarding instructor, is making one last run. He also loves working in the mountains, so he's accustomed to his very wealthy, demanding clients who turn up every day with new outfits worth $2,000.
I love boarding, and life here is pretty sweet. Sometimes people don't even turn up to lessons, or very rich clients will pay for a full day at $1,000, and there are only 2 hours of it left. So yes, it's fairly easy here, and I know my role is simply to be in the service of the rich.
Here is to serve the wealthy, basically.
And to save money, Oscar has his lunchtime method.
I have lunch every day, but I don't buy my meals. Because if someone clears a tray and there's food left, I ask, "Have you finished?" And most of the time, they're happy to let me have their leftovers. That's how I manage to get a decent meal. And generally, it's delicious. Not everyone does that, of course, but it helps me a great deal. It saves me hundreds of dollars each season.
30 kilometers from Aspen, we meet David. His shift on the chairlift is over. He returns to the plot where tiny houses are sited, a quaint term used to describe simple caravans.
$500 is probably the price of a single dinner in Aspen. And that's the amount of my rent. Frankly, it's bewildering. Such an extreme disparity of wealth. The other day I read an article saying that billionaires were starting to replace millionaires in Aspen by snapping up their homes. It's just insane to me. There are 3 of us living here. I pay $100 more rent because I can stand up in my room, unlike the others upstairs. I vote Democrat, but for me, the difference between the two camps is more like, do you want the status quo or regression? I really don't believe this country is making progress. The last 2 elections taught me that. I truly think that between the two, the question is more, are we going to keep patching the cracks in the dam? Or are we going to let the dam give way? Whereas actually, what we should above all do is relieve the pressure.
More than a mere tantrum of a privileged employee, the phenomenon of the Great Resignation is also an awakening amongst those on the lowest incomes. In their supermarket in Denver, or serving the very rich in Aspen, some are standing up to say no to inequality, no to indecency. They know the country needs them. But revolution isn't something people are used to.